we do?
Yep.
Welcome, everybody, to the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation meeting. Who do we have? Do we have in here? I'll do acknowledgement first. Yeah. Midmurray Council would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land, the Ngadjuri, Nawal, Ngarapu, Ngarkat, Kainjeri and Paramak peoples of the Midmurray lands and waters. It is upon their ancestral lands and waters that the Midmurray Council meets and operates, and Council pays respect to elders past and present and their spiritual beliefs that are of continuing importance to those First Nations peoples of today. Council further acknowledges the contributions and important role that First Nations people continue to play within the community, and we extend that respect to any peoples in attendance here today. Attendance.
Apology from David Hartley.
Okay. We don't have anyone on leave, and staff we have Natalie. Of course, Gary. Confirmation of minutes 4.1 that the minutes of Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee meeting held on the 28th of January 2026 be taken as read and confirmed. Remember, Councillor Tosh MP, second, Matt. Those in favour, are there no discussion on the minutes, I believe. They're all good with the minutes, are they? Yeah. All those in favour? It's carried. All those against? It's carried. Declaration of interest, go around the room. No. No. No.
Don't forget Neville online as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing here. Nothing here from Neville.
No worries. Deputations, we have Newell, 0.6. 7, Development and Community Services, 7.1, Community Work Plan 2024 to 2027. Recommendation is that the Community Work Plan 2024 to 2027 report on Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee agenda of the 29th of April 2026 be received. Do we have That's moving on. Can we have a seconder? Mandy. We have discussion about this item.
I read a little bit, but how are we going on this? Can you elaborate more on what's going on with our the growth and township plan? I know I've got some there's documents here about it, but I'm just more curious of the headline discussion around it. Okay, if we could.
Anything in particular? I mean, obviously the housing strategy itself has been adopted.
Right. This is the spatial tool we're talking about, or am I mistaken?
So there's various. So the stage 1's complete, which is the strategy itself.
Yeah.
Stage 2 is the spatial tool, which is still in finalisation. As part of today's agenda, I'll be doing a bit of a brief presentation on it and where we're at. Okay. So you'll get.
I'm happy to abide that then. Sorry, yeah, that's fine. Rather than
that's
your time here.
All good then.
It's only that I read it all, and it was just I'm a trainer or member, and I was like, this wasn't. I wasn't connecting with it all because there was lots of lingo in there. I wasn't quite remembering.
Yes, that's okay.
That's cool. All right, thanks.
Any other comments, discussion?
I just had one. Just I hope I'm on the right thing. We did a submission that you signed, Simone, back in May 2024 to the House of Reps Standing Committee on Regulation, Development, Infrastructure, Transport, etc. Did we have formal outcomes to that? Do we need to follow up on that?
That's financial sustainability as well.
Was it just about financial sustainability? Yeah. Okay, so just like the title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did get
yeah.
opportunity to have the hearing, and that action inquiry was a report, interim report was presented and then Parliament changed, and so now it's actually started the whole process.
Okay.
Anybody else? If not, all those in favour? Those against? Is carried. Item 8, 8.1, tourism item. Have I missed?
Yeah, 7.2.
Was that not in there? I can't see. Oh, yeah, there it is. Sorry, guys.
Pretty small one.
Yes. Yeah, it's only 7.2, final draft Mid-Murray Council Disability Access and Inclusion Plan. Recommendation is the 1.1, the final draft Mid-Murray Council Disability Access and Inclusion Plan 2026 to 2030. Report on the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee agenda of 29th of April 2026 be received. Point 2, the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee endorses the final draft Mid-Murray Council Disability Access and Inclusion Plan 2026 to 2030. Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee meeting 29th of April 2026 and recommends it to Council for adoption. Point 3, the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee endorses draft correspondence for Council consideration to send to the CEO of the Department of Human Services upon publishing the plan. And point 4, the Chief Executive Officer or nominee be authorised to make amendments of a minor or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the Mid-Murray Council Disability Access and Inclusion Plan 2026 to 2030 and letter to the CEO of the Department of Human Services. Do we have a move on? Do we want to have a discussion? Bailey, seconder.
I'm happy to second it, but I have a comment which basically may or may not change the recommendation, so. I don't know procedurally what the correct approach would be.
Do we second amendment or just
We
discussion?
we can amend it. It's in the same spirit.
And happy to see.
Yeah, let's second it, and we can have the discussion and work out what we need to do. That's fine. So I've got two things I wanted to raise. One was, firstly on the actual draft plan, while I'm happy to, I'm perfectly happy, in fact, I'm very supportive of the reference group or the committee, but I'm a bit unhappy that we're basically saying we're not going to prioritise anything, we're just going to leave it to them to prioritise. And I think that we're smart enough, we're capable enough that we should be actually just saying there's a couple of obvious things we should just get started on without having to wait to gather a bunch of people in the room. Or alternatively, we should be making a commitment about when we're going to have that done by. My take on that is that playing like this over a 4-year period, you should be able to each year as part of council's budget cycle say this year the priorities are bang, bang, bang. We do the session career and it gets into the budget. Something of that nature. Yeah. So without this, I mean, I prefer that we actually say these are the priorities, but I'm also relaxed enough that an alternative is to just simply say we're going to get this group together and get the priorities sorted, top-toe, so the council's in a position to, put a recommendation to council that says this is what priorities for this year look like, so that they can be put into budget. Yeah. And on that gloss, I appreciate there's a range of recommendations covering the 5 domains and all this stuff. Yeah. And I have no drama with that. And but out of all of them, my own personal view is that the most important thing the council should be aiming for, it's probably the most costly though, mind you, is toilets. Like all the rest of it, and I'm not saying all of that's unimportant, but they strike me as being more they're more malleable. Thank you. Yes, it's sort of like, it's a bit of that. And I just personally think, and I think on the toilets, front, it's not just about people who are living with disability, but it's about general accessibility. I noted there was recently a story, I noted the Building Code Board is currently putting out the final code, I think, this year, which is changing standards for publicly accessible toilets generally. Which is a bigger picture issue. Yeah. But it just made me think, and again, to my mind, that's the most, for me, that's what I think is the most important and tangible thing that we could be doing. And it's a very tangible thing every time we do it. So we have upgraded toilet X, Y, or Z to this. Yes, there was cost associated with it. We aren't going to be able to do all toilets all at once. Some will be up to scratch, some will not. But to my mind, it's a really obvious infrastructure program that could be rolled out iteratively and over a period of time, potentially get to a point and say, we are very proud to say because we did that, we've got 100% of our public toilets are fully accessible.
You know how many we've got?
I don't know.
42 toilet blocks.
It'll take its own time, but that's my view. But regardless of that, I just think that we should be feedback. Even though it was only 4 pieces of feedback in that last round, it was pretty obvious that it was all action. We want action. We want action. Less words.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe there was something about why others didn't respond again because they're just waiting for what's actually the action. So that's my take on that. I do have another comment which is on the letter, but I might just park that for the day.
Can I just comment as well then that I agree with you that something that affects people on a day-to-day basis is the best place to start. Absolutely. If we're going to decide on something like that, the first priority is across the board, access to toilets. As long as it includes that we've already had feedback on the toilets are fine, but I can't get my wheelchair up to them, haven't we? So it's wheelchair, so it's access including surrounds. Yeah, I'd support that as first priority.
Any more comments, discussion on that one?
I think I agree with Matt that I think we need action and we need to prioritise and identify what will be the key toilets that the council will look at in the foreseeable future.
So suggestion, Matt, point 2 recommends it to council for adoption and includes a budget.
Yeah. With a priority to getting to this year's budget. With budget.
Soon.
Yeah, right.
And recommends
a budget.
Yeah.
I think that would do it. And I think if you can get that disability group,
maybe it recommends an ongoing budget line for state progress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And if we could get that disability group, with an opportunity to say, yes, this is what we think the priority for this year should be. So if
council agrees on the budget, then it's worth doing the advisory group. If they don't,
it kind of goes.
Point, you know.
Yeah,
so if we can get through that, then I guess next steps will be.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm happy to support that.
So basically adding the wording at the end of point 2 for adoption and for an ongoing budget allocation.
Yeah, and recommends council.
Yeah, and recommends to council the plan for adoption.
Yeah.
And allocation of budget.
Ongoing budget.
Yeah. For implementation.
Yeah.
I think that would do it.
So Ben.
An ongoing budget line, maybe. An ongoing budget line.
Jen.
Oh, Ben, yes.
Through the chair, so I'm happy with that wording, whether you want to add priorities in there too, Gary. Just probably a comment is my understanding the priorities were the establishment of the group, Gary, in the first year, and also an audit. And just for an awareness, we're finalising our budget at the moment. Correct me, Gary, was it 50 or 30 grand? I can't remember the conversation we had yesterday. So there is a budget allocation in the draft budget to deliver strategies.
I think we allocated 30 in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is that just for strategies or is that for physical?
That's for what I've seen as priority. So it might be that 30 allows us to do an audit.
Yeah.
you know,
So it's those sort of, that side of it, the practical organisational side of how the implementation of the plan, and then where's the benefit? Two different things. So I would propose extra, so that you've got that 30,000 for the implementation of the plan, et cetera, plus there be an amount for actual physical accessibility funding.
yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but you know, in terms of some of that infrastructure work, whether there'll be any infrastructure services budget that would be complementary to the implementation of the plan.
I would have to check that. I don't know if it would be specifically for the plan, but there may be infrastructure works that come out of the audit that can be delivered through the infrastructure budget. But we would need
what we're doing now, after that first session,
That's
somebody
right.
mentioned it all at Morgan, and it literally is fixed now just by having that discussion.
Yeah. So initially we put 30,000 there as to the priorities that we identify. So if it's an audit, hopefully that 30,000 would cover an audit. It may not, but that's saying that if once we come, we'll come back to council if we need to say, well, it's actually 50,000. So we have sort of notionally put something in there for the implementation of this plan.
And that's the other issue was that committee or advisory group gets started ASAP.
Yeah.
Do you say it's in there within the first year?
So our intention is to try to get it up and running ASAP.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with, I think ideally you line up a budget thing, really, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it has to be, I guess my point is it has to be a real thing.
Yeah.
And you have to feel and see real outcomes quickly.
Mhm.
Notwithstanding that some outcomes take longer than others, we all understand that. Some are more costly than others. Like we've done talk, we're about to recommend something, council will then make its own final decision around it. But I think it's just really important to make it very action oriented. And that's reading that feedback that also just reinforced to me. So I've gone on about toilets because that's what I think, but it doesn't really matter. It ultimately comes down. It's a decision. It's a decision of council that council has to take.
Yeah.
But whether it's that, or whether it's something else, it's about saying what can we get done. And that should be sort of the focus every year is what can we do this year? So it's the only way we're going to chip away at it.
I think in terms of moving forward, and councillors, you can tell me if you feel differently about this, but in terms of the report that comes back to council for the minutes of this committee, obviously in terms of recommending the adoption of the plan, subject to budget, subject to prioritisation. In the body of the report, we can at least talk about those two priorities in terms of the audit and the advisory group. So we'll make sure we emphasise those in the report as what we feel from this committee should be the two priorities of council in the first year of this plan.
And Gary, through the chair, I would just add something like in that report, like the committee's, what I'm hearing, the committee is saying is that they want something tangible done as well.
Yeah.
And that may be a toilet or toilets, or so yes, the committee, yes, an audit, but something tangible so we can go after the 12 months. We've actually done something, we've listened to the feedback and they wanted action.
I think that's exactly right, Dean. And I think that serves sorry to keep butting in, but I think that serves council well if we can actually say this plan each year is something that you can actually say we've delivered something which is stepping towards improving our services or infrastructural facilities for people living with disability.
What Matt and I have spoken about, the other element in this is that, the issue of having to write a plan is, they're not sitting on the shelf. And so for us, it's how do we make this a live document? And so one of the things that we will be doing is making sure we will have our reporting requirements to DHS, but we will ensure through this committee, through council, that we'll report regularly on the implementation of this plan during the life of its plan. So I think we've sort of, the last plan, I think sort of got lost in the, realm of local government.
Got lost in the flood.
But, So
that was the idea of trying to find it when we had to do up with the toilets and things like that.
Yeah. So we'll endeavour to make sure that we do provide regular reports on the advisory group once it's established and what it's done and what's been earmarked to review, as well as what physical things are actually done on the ground.
Yeah.
So we got the final wording, Mel.
Can you just repeat it for me? I've got and recommends to council plan for adoption.
Yeah,
And an
recommends to council and recommends to council the adoption of the plan and ongoing budget allocation for implementation. Now, do we want to include and prioritisation for the first year?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, and prioritisation for the first year.
Do you want the budget lines?
I think, yeah, sounds good. I mean, you understand the sense of the community as well, so
Yeah.
in that sense,
You give us another letter or something.
I did.
That's one of the things.
I did. It was more just to talk about the text of the letter. It's just a general comment, and the letter's good. But I think the general point that in the mix of stuff that it's talking about in terms of our financial capacity to be able to implement everything, I think there just needs to be a little bit more. It just gets lost in the commentary a little bit, which is basically you're making us do this plan, but you're giving us no money or opportunity for money. So I just think we need to be. I have no problem with all of the background around the fiscal pressures that this council, amongst others, faces and the reasons why. But I just think we need to foreground in the text of the letter a little bit more strongly a fairly pointed remark about government compels us to do these plans, which take time and compel us to spend money. But then government doesn't provide us with, sufficient opportunities to support measures that might need funds.
Yeah.
So I just think we need to foreground that just a little bit more sharply in
I
the.
mean, we've asked to meet with her to
Yeah.
do that, but yeah, if she doesn't meet with us, then we'll at least set it.
Yeah, that's all. I mean,
We'll point
there's a
four
balance
allow-
around how to write that, obviously. So
And
that's
point
all.
four allows Ben to do that anyway.
Yeah. So I don't think it needs an amendment to the rest of it. It was just more just a reflection. of
Ben's taken that on board, sure. Yeah.
That was Gary has. So yes.
I have.
That has.
Well, the problem is when you make a joke, you have to be off mute. So because I said it to myself and no one laughed. I just from a formality perspective, who moved the motion, Mel?
Sorry, what's that mean?
Who moved the motion?
The mayor?
Yes. So Mayor Bailey, you're happy with the recommended the changes?
I suggested that. And Matt agreed. Yeah.
I think does that be? Any other comments on that? Good. Yeah. All those in favour? And against? Carry. 7.3. Roadmap to housing strategy. Recommendation is 0.1, the Roadmap to Housing Strategy Report on the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee's agenda on 29th of April 2026 be received. 0.2, the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee recommend that Council A adopt the proposed Roadmap to Housing Strategy as the framework for the ongoing implementation of the Mid-Murray Growth Management and Housing Strategy. Part B, initiate the code amendment for the focus towns of Mannum, Truro and Swan Reach aligned with the Mid-Murray Growth Management and Housing Strategy. And point C, allocate $100,000 as part of the 2026-2027 budget deliberations to progress the code amendment or seeking contribution from key plan holders to offset the cost of preparing the code amendment. Do you have a review for that? Do we want to have discussion first? Wanting to move? Yes. Trying to do one on it.
Right.
Do we have a second? Second. No.
It's like it's moving.
Pretty sure that wants his name down.
Anyone?
Neville, they're looking for you to second the motion.
Yeah. Didn't you blink?
They're wanting
Bill?
it, yeah, there
Blink,
we
see?
go.
Peer pressure.
Yeah. Discussion and comments about the slum, I'm sure there will be some.
I guess my only comment about allocating $100,000, if it's seeking contribution, well then we also need $100,000 budget income line so that happens. So that's net change of budget of 0 and you're more likely to get approved from elected members than that. Is my only suggestion.
Just through the chair on that, obviously this is one of our key strategies of this work, this committee. We've obviously done
Yeah.
the strategy, and now if we want to progress the growth options through those towns, yes, we'll try to attract support for the code amendment, but I think it's something that council does need to do to progress the growth of those identified focus towns.
The 100,000 income could be from grants as well, so it doesn't have to. It's more likely to go through council if you've got both ones.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the two landholders in question, have been approached. They have given their indication that they're, prepared to contribute. Obviously, quantum is still to be negotiated. Yes, there may be opportunity for grant funding also to offset that cost. But as Ben said, it is a prime outcome of strategy to in terms of our federal funding, was to actually make lands available for housing. That was the whole purpose of the federal funding. So we're partway there to actually, fulfilling our obligations as an organisation in terms of that funding. But rezoning land to make land available is the critical outcome of that housing support program. So yes, I think $100,000 investment towards that housing supply is a critical component of council's role. And yes, if it can be offset by income, yes, it will be.
I mean, I was at a meeting this morning with some people about an entirely different matter, but they were talking about the Riverlea development north of Adelaide, and they were saying it's going at a rate that none of them thought was possible. So, I think delay would be unnecessary delay on this front, in terms of pushing it in and releasing and getting land rezoned would be. It would be an own goal on our part not to do that. However, I'm still gobsmacked that it still costs this amount of money to do a code amendment. Can you just what does our 100,000 get us out of this?
Well, I've used the department's guide, and so I've used the upper complexity level, and in terms of the actual drafting of the actual code amendment, in terms of the investigations that need to be prepared to support the rezonings. So the growth strategy, I think, goes part way in terms of obviously providing some of that data evidence.
Yeah.
So a consultant would have to do some more refined analysis around land supply within the 3 towns, along with making sure that the infrastructure provisions are there to support future housing. So there'll be investigations primarily around those sorts of key elements. In terms of, again, the other elements, not just the housing, it's the employment. So we'd have to do a bit of analysis around employment opportunity and analysis of what sectors of industry we could attract. So basically, there's a number of investigations that would be needed to do that. There's elements that we can do in-house. So already I've in the process of potentially getting a student to come in to do some of the research component for us. So that offsets then again paying a consultant to do that.
Yeah.
The work that was done around the growth strategy was based on available state level data. And so it does need to be ground truthed a little bit, and it's dated. So having someone come in and to do that ground truthing would be a key factor. In terms of process, I think a lot of the costs is around the engagement. So the engagement plan and the consultation on code amendment. which is required. There's the actual paying consultant, obviously, to draft. The actual drafting of the code amendment is probably not as complex as it was, because of the way that the code is structured. So yeah, you know, it could potentially come in under the 100,000, you know, give or take.
So my memory was, for instance, with Truro, like we've got a decent amount of the preparatory work there.
Yes.
So that side of it, like the Truro area is just simply, there's a clear extension of where it was going. There was there were already investigations that underpinned that.
Yes.
You know, that potentially could proceed quite quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas I can't remember Swan Reef, but like Manham, it all comes down to scoping questions with Manham. It depends on whether you're touching existing areas or just focusing on extension. Because
So there's a bit.
there was a bit of both.
There's a bit of both in Manham. So for instance, it's doing structure plans for the zoned areas.
Yeah.
So even for Truro, doing a concept structure plan.
Right.
So then that way, the deferred urban within Truro, if we rezone it to suburban neighbourhood, there's actually a concept structure plan.
The concept structure plan is going to give us basically the road, an indicative road network,
Correct. Yeah.
indicative open space for
Correct.
drainage reserves or
Correct.
things of this nature.
Yeah. And Manor would be the same in the parcel of land there between the back end of Manor and Ridley Road. So yes, some structure planning for all the large parcels of land would be part of that investigations to put into the code amendment. So yeah, basically you would have some consultancy work around that.
More comments?
Yeah, I think just from Neville through the chair, I don't think there's much point in having a strategy unless you're actually trying to implement it as well. So I'd fully support trying to find the $100,000 to continue with the code amendment if possible.
Just a comment that at the last council meeting, Truro, the deputation, just for the people here who weren't at the council meeting, Truro put a deputation, well, not a deputation to us explaining that they're applying to Rossa Council at the next, which can't necessarily alter what we're doing, but it's a possibility that will become not part of the plan. Subject to what happens. Yeah. So I didn't know whether we would just then focus on the two towns if that arises, or whether we'd want to look for a third, the fourth one.
I mean, it just strikes me that this is a matter that in administration you can work out, obviously, but as you do these things, it will become obvious that this bit might be easier to get done quicker than the other bit. And so carve out, get that done, and then come back to more complex. I'm just thinking for me, I was thinking about the Manham, so I remember that map that we looked at with zone boundaries of Manham. And I think I made some commentary at the time about simplifying this would probably make sense, as well as looking at where the town extensions might go. It might be that you break those into components rather than in terms of how to do it.
Coming back to your point, Matt, the code amendment process is slightly simpler because at the end of the day, council can only play around with the spatial boundaries. Correct. It doesn't play around with policy. And so it's just about saying where we would like a suburban neighbourhood zone versus a township zone versus a deferred urban zone, and justifying those zoning spatially.
That's what the cost is.
That's what the justification. That's what the cost is. And then preparing the plans and the documents that go with that and the engagement, as I said. So, until you go out to tender, you don't know what the price is, but I've used the upper reaches of the structure that the department puts on its website, which is the World Complex, because I put it in the complex because primarily it's a growth strategy code amendment. It's not just a rezoning for a parcel of land. We're looking at 3 towns, three levels of investigations and things. So that's why I put it in the complex range. You're right. You could out individualize, but again, there was advantage of doing a collective code amendment because of the consistency of what we're trying to achieve here. Truro, we've got the existing master plan. The other element of Truro is creating a new deferred urban area to the north because of the freight bypass concept. So again, those are justifications that we would have to put in the code amendment for the minister to agree to.
There's no more comments. All those in favour? All those against? See them, see them not.
Neville, are you in favour?
All those in favour?
Is it
He's frozen.
He's frozen. He's frozen.
He's at the pub. That's majority.
Yeah.
List,
Oh, he's carried.
I'm sure he would have said yes.
I'm sure.
Given his comments, I'm thinking it's a safe bet that he was going to.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. It was gone. Okay. 8.1, tourism update. Recommendation is that tourism update report on strategic growth and economic activation community agenda on 29th of April 2020 be received. Do we have them? Anyone? Seconder? Bailey? Comments and discussion about this one?
Steve, do you want to make any comments on?
Make any comments?
No, pretty much what's in there. So there's some areas progressing from the tranche 1 and tranche 2, yeah, sitting there as a draft. So looking forward to progressing that one further as well. And did presentation on the marketing and my thoughts and my time here to the Heritage Committee on whatever day that was this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day this week. So yeah, that's sort of things fall into place a little bit.
It's no more.
I've got a question
Yeah.
that doesn't relate to the heritage thing, but just tourism in general. Have everybody here seen the council's tourism website? Haven't you?
Explore my phone or?
The website that comes up when you go to the new website. There's only one. No, the council website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Mid-Murray Council or it's Mid-Murray.
Well, I type in the Mid-Murray Council you can go to their website.
Yeah.
Mid-Murray Council.
Yeah. Has everyone had a look at it? Yeah. Has anybody else noticed the shocking grammar and presentation of that website? And the fact that it seems to be AI generated and not make sense. Some of the sentences don't make any sense.
Well, it's not AI generated.
Yeah, well, how is it
Was this one, you've heard of council?
with council?
Council. Just like.
Yeah, where it goes to the
Oh,
That's
okay,
tourism.
sorry, it's. Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, that sentence explore them in Bury.
That's right.
Okay, well, I've taken a heap of screenshots this morning from things that I have noticed, and I'm happy to put that to somebody that can do something about it, because people that read it, it's shocking. There's stuff in there that the photos don't align with what they're promoting. It's just. Yeah, I've been banging on about every time I open it, it had the picture of the little family having a picnic. at
Well, that's
the
being
table.
removed.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed, that's what I went to look at, you see?
Mhm.
But then I started picking up all these other things and I thought, what's going
So
on?
our staff don't have time to do all that, so like they remove
Yeah,
the photo.
so
and
who-
that's what
yeah.
I so just
Well, it
forward
did
it,
take a while to break down, but.
forward it to the team.
So who actually produces that?
That's the camp, it's a team.
The two
Whoever
of
gets
you?
Well, it's the entire organisation. Each part of the organisation have different responsibilities for different parts of the website.
Organisation of the Mid-Murray Council.
But the website's getting an entire refresh.
Yeah.
So there's an internal working group.
Sorry, Explore McMurray's different.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. So I was going to say that the website is councils, and we've got an internal working party to now do a refresh of that. But yes, the Explore Murray is a separate website.
But when you just clicked on tourism, it went straight into the.
Yes, because it's a link towards the external website.
You've got a copy, so.
Send it
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, 22.
So it just took it, you say that to you.
We'll send it to Karen.
Postbox.
Start on that.
Just send it to Postbox. It just sent to Postbox.
Discussion of comments about.
I just had a question about the maritime stuff. Where did we get to with the review of the issue with the vessels? Did that all happen? Or where did that land? Because I've just noticed a position description and business case for an operations coordinator or whatever that is.
Yeah, that was one of the outcomes of that tranche one, and that was to focus in, there's a lot of the legal and technical requirements for the operation boats with AMSA. And that role was specifically dealing with those and protecting us from anything that where, from a legislation perspective, are required to do.
So how, like, what's that going to have to do? Presumably a position description for someone doing that to meet the requirement, the regulators requirement.
Yes.
We're not talking about, someone has to come into that with particular credential or technical expertise, right?
Technically.
So we're going to have to pay at that level, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm as pressing an interest as to like what's the cost of that actually end up being. I suppose that's what the business case is going to unfold.
Yeah, and it's not a full-time position, it's part-time.
Right, okay. Yeah. Excellent.
There's no more comments or discussion. All those in favour? All those against? That is carried. Do we have any questions with notice? Wait, 9. Without notice, sorry.
I can do it here. I can. Last meeting, I raised a question about renewable energy stuff, and I wasn't sure if we were going to have a briefing or a discussion about that at some point. I'm just curious. I'll follow up on where that would be at.
So I missed that. Right?
Sorry, the last meeting, I raised a question about renewable energy and community benefit sharing.
Yes.
I just wondered where we were at in terms of where that's progressing.
Yeah, so we received quite a number of submissions
No worries.
on the policy. I gave a briefing to the elected members last week on the feedback that we received. It was fairly broad when you look at the different groups, in terms of renewable companies, foundation themselves, and community. In terms of the pros and cons around the foundation model, the quantum of funding, the distribution of funding, and the advisory committee. That was the main sort of focus around the submissions. When the draft policy was presented to council, there's 2 models that were presented: the foundation model or a council-led model. And following the engagement it was, the sense I got was that there was preference more towards going down a council-led model. So presented all the submissions and represented the three models that were sort of on the table, in the sense that what went out with the policy, what the foundation came back with an alternative model to their foundation model, and then representing the council-led model. So council, without making a decision at briefing, has given me direction that a council-led model may now be the preferred model. So I've gone away now and reassessed the submissions in line with that being the recommended action. And if that's the case, as I alluded to elected members, that is a reasonable departure from the original policy, which will then probably need a second round of engagement. And so that engagement might be a bit more targeted to the actual renewable companies themselves, rather than a broader community engagement, because the fundamental premise is still the same. It's just the mechanics of how it operates. So that's where we're at.
When would you expect that to?
So I'm hoping to bring that to the next council meeting for consideration, with the notion that if it was to go out for a second round of engagement, that would occur, and then a final policy will come back probably then by the sort of June, July council meeting.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions or those? Okay. Point 10, presentation. Gary, Director of Development and Community Services, will be providing a presentation on mid-map, the spatial mapping tool for Mid-Murray Growth Management Housing Strategy.
So I am going to share your 2 slides.
First, you got to stand my 2 slides. That's right. I forgot you got to do that then before I do that.
And then you're going to share your screen.
Then I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so as part of the grant funding for the growth strategy, we also had a fair portion of the funding go towards developing a spatial mapping tool. And the key focus was for the tool to sort of basically support the growth strategy in terms of identifying infrastructure investment that would be needed to support growth within the council area. And basically in terms of then giving us a mechanism to, talk to developers in terms of where would it be appropriate for, investment to occur within the council area, assist in identifying sites for components that are looking for, a project site. And just recently we've had examples where this tool would have been very handy. We had a developer meet with us wanting to undertake a certain activity. They had a site in mind, and we determined that site would not be appropriate for them. So then having this tool would have been an opportunity to say, well, what are you looking for? What are the parameters? So they wanted security, they wanted access. So they were very simple parameters that we could probably use to, assist them. So basically it's there to try to do all that high level, sort of multi-criteria assessment around what are the sort of elements that they would be looking to take advantage of. Next slide. So basically we came up with, it was just called a spatial mapping tool. That was pretty boring. So Mid-Murray Invest was sort of a working concept, but we landed on Mid-Map, Map, Decide, Invest. There's a bit of branding for it, just to sort of give it some branding recognition. Then hopefully over time people will say, "Oh, Mid-Murray, that's where we want to invest. This is how we want to come to council with projects." So yeah, that was just how the logo design came about, but it's fundamentally about, giving investment opportunity within the council. We want to attract, businesses. We want to attract residential growth. We want to attract, that sort of opportunity. So having this tool is there. The other element to the tool then allows us to, when we deep dive, we can sort of start negotiating with developers around infrastructure improvements that are needed, particularly to council assets. And so then we can sort of outline what are the potential costs for upgrading or maintaining council infrastructure, particularly roads. We can then use that towards developing the foundations for an infrastructure agreement between the developer and council. So using the renewables is a good example where they are going to run their trucks on a road for a certain kilometre. We can then work out what their contribution as part of the infrastructure agreement will be for the life of the project. So that will be a tool that we can use to help facilitate those conversations. All right. Now,
You just need to share.
I just need to share. That's all I need to do. Look at that.
Just that.
All right. It's the right one. No, that wasn't the right one.
I said I was trying to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it was the right share. The right screen. Share. People online can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just the home page. So if a staff member was logging in, this is what they would see as their dashboard. So at the moment, we just got some various test examples that the team have been trying out. But fundamentally, you can view all view by a visual, so you can sort of see what people have been testing in the environment, and these sites have been identified through various criteria that have been set for a project. So it identifies those parcels of land that meet the criteria that a developer sees as being appropriate for their project. So that's just a very quick little way of visualizing a project. And each of these sites then has information that you can actually then draw upon if you are of interest in those projects. But the idea that obviously, if a developer comes in, we can create a new project and run through a scenario. So I'll just open up a general one, just to sort of, we can have some initial information captured around the project and the developer details, just so that we've got that on record, that we had a meeting with them and the like. We would then, start exploring a site. So then we can sort of do that via a number of means. They might have a general idea of where they want to be, and we put a street address and then search on that. The other is just to sort of start at the whole council-wide and then narrow it down to the multi-criteria process. Just by way of information, we've got different layers that we can turn on and off. So we can sort of see general land use patterns. We can see whether there's an LMA. We can turn on. So these are basically all information that is either currently available through information that we hold or state government holds. So a lot of this is actually drawn from the planning portal. So some of that data is directly fed from the portal. We can then look at infrastructure layers. So for instance, we can look at the wastewater network. If I go zoom in onto Madam, we can actually see the actual wastewater network. So again, if the developer is going to be in close proximity to the network, then it'll only bring up parcels that are close to that requirement.
We want to see the shipwrecks.
Yeah, so like shipwrecks, what's going on with shipwrecks?
Yeah, it just brings it's all the layers that come across.
That's correct.
Call it paddle steamer wrecks.
Yeah.
That's right.
But equally, boat ramps might be important too from a tourism activity perspective, etc. So these are layers that we can turn on and off, have a conversation with a developer as to what may or may not be important. Equally, in terms of some of the overlays that are pertinent to certain aspects that they might be looking for. So there's, again, as I said, all this data has just been pulled out of the state government data sets, as well as our own data sets that we own at a local level. You obviously can turn the aerial photography on and off if you wish, just depending what view you want. So again, you then may choose to do some more filtering. So you might be a bit more specific around what filters you want, in which case you can then set certain distances from different classes of road. So you might be specifically wanting to be at 100 metres within a class 1 road, in which case then you can apply that filter. And because I haven't added a location, it's probably on that. Postcode, Madam.
1238.
Thank you. So I can apply that filter. It's basically bringing up the postcode, but then I'll also then should start picking up some of those parcels that meet those specific criteria that the developer wishes to have. Should we go? Come on.
Still no sites found.
Yeah, no sites down there. You go. Thank you, Mel. So it's just depending on how the filter, I've probably got too big an area. It's postcode, street number. What's the
Council
Adelaide Road.
49 Adelaide Road.
input? Again.
Maybe change the class one.
It's not letting me do it apply filter for some reason. Let's start again. We can down. There we go. So yeah, so basically you can see now it's identified parcels meet that criteria within that radius of that distance. So basically then you can then hone in, and then if you want to then, if the developer says, oh yeah, you know, that parcel looks like it's a reasonable proposition, you can stay at the site, give more project details for that site. And then you can then generate a report for them. And so if I just go to location planning reports for general. It basically will give them a site analysis report, and it will provide details of the project, that site that we've analysed, giving them details of the parcel, and then also the different elements in terms of planning, zoning, council assets, constraints, etc., that they will apply to that parcel or subject site. And from there, they can then go away and do their due diligence to sort of say, well, this actually works for me. You know, I'll go and proceed with an application process. So that's pretty much just the overview of the location planning tool. So if and when they then get to the point where they are interested in a site and they've lodged an application and they start talking to council about what assets are needed to allow that development to occur, then there's opportunity to sort of then dive into the project in more detail. There's two ways which this phase of the tool can be utilised. It might be still that they're considering the site and want to do that analysis before they lodge an application, or they've lodged the application, and in which case then we can actually extract the information straight from the portal. So we just put project ID from the portal, their DA number, and it will extract the information straight out of the portal and populate our tool. So then that way it's all just there, ready to go.
Sounds like an easier way to find it.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily know that at the time.
Yeah.
So this is now they've lodged. So this the early stuff, they don't know where they want to be.
Yeah.
So that first part of the tool is helping them find a location. Now that they've lodged an application, then this tool, the second phase of the tool is to use that negotiation phase. But like I said, it might be that they still haven't lodged, so we still have the ability to enter a project here and create a project. So it might be from a saved site on the location planning, so we can draw that across. So all the information is automatically pre-populated, so we don't have to re-enter it. But the idea for this phase is then to look at the infrastructure around a site. And so in this particular example here, the site's chosen, and there's been an area that's been identified that's needed for some road infrastructure upgrade. You can add a flag risk if there's a potential issue. But in terms of adding, you can add a road. So basically you can then add, you know, a segment.
Gary, so when it says add a risk flag, do you get to name what the risk is?
Yes. So you can see I've got a little marker now, so I can actually sort of tag a distance and proceed to edit that. Then you can add a description about that, etc., in terms of what it is. Then what we have then the ability to then is then go and look at the costings. And so looking at each element, there's a unit cost for maintaining or upgrading that asset. And then by doing that, you can then work out a cost sharing. So if there's a 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 split between developer, council, or third party, so it might be state government involved, so we can do a three-way split. So it will generate a report and then calculate what they are up for as part of their project. that becomes then the basis of an infrastructure agreement between the developer and council or third party. So this is, again, would generate a report. This is early versions of the report, so I've already suggested some changes. But again, you get the basic information, basic overview. All this won't be repeated. Because what they're going to be interested at this point of the process is none of that. It's about the actual infrastructure items and what the elements are and what the final cost would be. And it tells you what projected infrastructure cost of the project is for them to implement. So like I said, then that can be then used as the basis of drafting up an infrastructure agreement between council and developer. So that's where the tool's at the moment. We are working on a couple of variations to bring in elements of some council. So the other option is to council-led projects in this as well. So we can flag council projects. So the other element is we're building the growth strategy, identify growth areas into spatial layer. So that way, again, we can use that as an attraction to investment by saying this is where we want things to happen. So that can be one of the filters. So identify a growth site, and that way it brings up the parcels that are within that growth area. We're also, for Dave's team, including customer requests. So that way, if there's, multiple requests for improved stormwater along a street, we can actually have a history of requests. So then that can lead to a council initiated project through budget allocation.
So are you loving it?
Sorry?
Are you loving it?
I am.
Can you not tell?
Silly question.
Silly question.
I love it. Yeah, I love it too.
It's definitely. This is a concept that's been in my head for a number of years, and so to be able to put it onto a platform and see it actually operate as being positive. We, through the tourism precinct planning project, one of the outputs is the cultural mapping. So that will become a cultural layer in the tool. The consultants that are doing the work there, I gave them a presentation and they already said, yeah, love it. They can see the benefit of this.
Yeah.
So from a cultural mapping point of view, it's again, potentially look at like the no-go areas to protect cultural assets.
Yeah.
So we're at the point where, like I said, we're probably at a 95% mark now of completion. The consultant's just coming back to us with a final timeline to get the variations complete, some of the final tweaking of some of the layers, plus the synergy integration with our synergy system. So then the customer request data can be pulled out. With the intention that we can hopefully go live sort of by the end of May at this stage.
So people finding it easy to use.
It actually is. Once you're used to it,
Yeah.
it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah.
In actual fact, credit to Ross, this consultant that did this for us. He had no idea about what planning and all that is. So he's actually designed the tool with the user in mind, which is really good. So the fact that I sort of jokingly said, Ben or myself can sit in with a developer and have this up, quite easy, and don't have the GIS expert sitting in the room.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to be GIS savvy. It's just about actually understanding how to manipulate the entry screens.
I think this would be very valuable if you're tying, as each year we're doing like the code of implements.
Yes. Yeah.
tie it in, then you're out there knocking on doors saying, hey, we're looking at this area, would you be interested? Basically, like, that's very powerful.
Oh, very much so. And that's what, I mean, like, to me, this is about investment attraction. And if we can make it easier for developers to invest in Mid-Murray by, showing that we can help them identify sites and we can negotiate, the costings equitably, then, it's open and transparent. And then hopefully people will want to invest here in our council area.
I'd say really important when once you launched it, it's actually almost roadshow it a little bit to our select audience.
We are going to try go to UDIA and the Property Council. I mean, the Department of Housing, we want to show them that the fact that they've assisted us with the data, I think they've already seen the value that this tool can have, which not only draw information from the portal, but we also drag it from the regional planning portal.
Yep.
So a lot of the data that's live on both the planning design code and the regional plans are drawn straight into this tool. So the API connection is valuable. The more and more data sources we identify, the more and more this tool will be beneficial. So we're already sort of looking at Electronet in terms of what data sets they have available publicly. So that way we can get the transmission line stuff more accurate. The more and more we do as a council, every project, every new asset is entered as a layer. In that way, it can demonstrate where infrastructure from council needs to be improved versus those that have already had that investment. So then, again, council can use this. So you can enter a council-led project in here. So it might be a new walking trail, as an example. We can enter that in here, and then it sits there as a project and a future layer. I can stop sharing how. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll get it's adopted and operational. We'll do a big media release.
Yeah.
Let people know that it's operational and really start promoting it.
So what if, hypothetically, something was discovered in an area, like a plant or a little critter, and suddenly it's a no-go zone, protection zone around that, would that come up like a red flag, or would it be a?
So long as we have that capacity to link into that spatial layer, then we can include it into the tool. But we'd have to know the source of the data set. Yeah. So, if something, again, that's where, identifying appropriate opportunities and constraint mapping is critical to this.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, we only learned this week, due to an assessment panel meeting, that the River Murray has been declared ecologically.
That's the Lower Murray, it's been for a while.
Yeah, since January.
Yeah.
So understanding what the implications.
Endangered.
Ecological endangered, that's the word. Yes, thank you.
Critically.
They're critically endangered. So what does that mean in terms of, development potential, in terms of spatially, is something that we need to, potentially think about as a constraint. So understanding those other legislative requirements. So, trying to build in information into the spatial tool that triggers, so in that report that the developer gets, you need to consider these other pieces of legislation that are non-planning related, so EPBC Act requirements, for instance. So we'll start building that into the reporting mechanism as well.
There's council done a submission to the Murray Basin?
We approved the motion to do one, and I wrote one up, then to look at it, it's now gone to our Murray Garden Association, but it will be submitted by Friday.
Okay. Point 11, confidential reports, there is nil. And 12, next meeting to be held at Canberra at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, 29th of July, 2026. Meeting closed.